Hey everyone, welcome back to the YOUnify podcast. My name is Brandyn Keating. I'm the co-founder and CEO of YOUnify, a nonprofit helping you flourish and thrive, and also the host of our podcast. I'm really excited to have with us today David Homan. Welcome, David.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
David Homan is a founder, author, advisor to philanthropists and impact investors, and he is also what he often calls a connector of connectors. He is the CEO of Orchestrated Connecting and Orchestrated Opportunities, where he helps leaders, organizations, and communities move beyond transactional networking and toward relationships rooted in trust, purpose, and impact. David is the co-author of the new book, Orchestrated Connecting. And David, just really grateful to have you here today, and would really love to help folks learn a little bit more about you before we dive into all of the magic that you're weaving with all of your orchestrating and connecting. So would love to hear a little bit about what young David was like and how you became this person who walks through these different worlds of nonprofits and business and philanthropy, weaving connection.
My mom would always say I was always that person. I don't think I ever saw myself as that person, Brandyn, until I was probably in my mid-30s.
Mm-hmm.
But when I built the world of Orchestrated Connecting, I made this really false assumption that everyone would think and like the word orchestrated, and then actually infer that I'm a working classical composer. Unfortunately, to this day, people still think it's really beautiful that they don't know they can go to Alexa and ask her to play my music.
Uh-huh.
But little David, and I will say this is little David or Dave, not Davy, because Davy was the bully in pre-K that I ended up standing up to, having sent home for stopping him from bullying others. And since then, I've hated little Davy. But little David was a kid, as my dad called me, little David, sometimes slipping for Davy, who never had a full sense of himself. I never felt I fit in anywhere, but I sort of fit in everywhere. And everywhere I would go, I would build relationships and friendships, and I had no way to understand what I was doing or the depth of it. And when I got sick when I was a kid, when I was starting 6th grade, all that seemed to fall apart. And I spent another quarter of my life trying to figure out why I never fit in anywhere.
Wow.
Why people didn't call me on a Saturday night. Why they wanted something from me but didn't ask a lot of what I needed. And then I realized I was meeting all the wrong people.
Oh, interesting.
And that my tribe, so to speak, were the people I would gravitate to at a conference, at an event, even a birthday party or a bunch of friends crashing somebody's mini golf event. I would meet the connector. I would meet that person who built trust with vulnerability and curiosity, who was always that person who had an incredible network, who was making introductions. And I actually was that person.
Wow.
And in my desperation to find more comfort with others, what ended up happening was I built trust amongst the trust makers. From the powerful to the people adjacent to powerful, who like you in one call can call people who lead and control and guide and hopefully help the world flourish. And by building a global community of those people, I solved the one problem that I didn't think was mine to solve, because no one called me on a Saturday night because they assumed I was intentional, purposeful, and busy. They didn't call me to just hang out because they assumed I already had so many people they saw I knew. I must be with somebody else. And everything I thought that was a challenge for me was actually a strength others saw. And in merging those, I did this thing, and again, I thought was smart, which was merging the world of connection, my executive world, and my music. And I achieved the world of connection and the executive world, and I still struggle having to qualify that I'm a composer and orchestrator of people.
I love that. There is so much concentrated wisdom that I feel like anyone in any field, any human really, because as humans, we are also so driven by the need and want to connect can learn from. And I'm excited to dig more deeply into it. Before we dive deeper into the wisdom that you're sharing in your book and what you're doing with your startup, would love to know if you've already shared that you're a musical composer. Is there anything else that might surprise people who know you through your professional life that might surprise them about you?
How profane can I get?
As profane as you want.
So I grew up in a family that played board games.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, who recently passed, was this esteemed Harvard, Princeton trained Shakespearean scholar.
I'm sorry.
And we would just crave, thank you. But the moments I remember of him, the moments of love and respect, were playing a game called Balderdash.
Okay.
And Balderdash, for anyone who's never played it, is a game where it starts off with a word, and the word is something that is a real word, but you have to make up a fake definition.
Oh, okay.
And then there's beyond Balderdash, where you have fake movie synopses, but it's real. And the goal is to create something fake that everyone thinks is real, but not in my family. So what most people don't know is, which is why I asked about how crass I can get, is how what I love to do is to improv with humor and to come up with things that take me out of all the seriousness of what most of my life is.
Yeah.
And years ago, we were playing this game and we took it seriously, as best as my family, what we call Homan rules, could play. And then my brother put this word called tristity down.
Okay.
And there was a real definition. And I don't know what possessed me, but I wrote, to pee on a small turtle without mercy.
As one does.
and everyone looked at it and they started cracking up.
Yeah.
And by the end of the game, everything had become humor to just release.
Yeah.
There was some movie called Summer in Ontario, and my brother's definition was Sandra Bullock stars as a piece of blue tubing. And no one knew what it meant, but we just lost it.
Yeah.
And for 20 years now, I've been playing with different friends, some completely surprised that the composer, Carnegie Hall, worked with Ray Dalio, best-selling author, is sitting there going, did you like the turtle one?
I love it.
So that's that part of me I don't really share with everyone, but it's the only way I know to not take my life as seriously. And it's to feel this unabashed world of it's okay to be crass, to be humorous, and to say things that would otherwise be offensive amongst people that you love.
Beautiful. And so you mentioned flourishing, and as you know, that's something that's really important to us here in YOUnify. And I'm curious, is there one thing right now you're finding challenging when it comes to your own personal flourishing, and maybe one thing that's helping you flourish and thrive?
Oh, what a great, tough question. Everyone tells you when you lose a parent that you're part of a club you didn't want to belong to. And everyone you have an intimate talk with, for the most part, says everyone seems to forget after 1 month, as if that was the time it took to grieve. One of my friends said 27 years later, they're still grieving.
Wow.
And so it is really hard to flourish and to stay positive when you feel alone, even though I don't feel truly alone. With losing my dad.
Yeah.
He was 87. He lived a full life. I talked to him every day. I have no regrets of our relationship. But I had to describe to somebody what it felt like to have that type of loss, and I finally found the words, which was, if I may,
please.
You're running in a field, and when you step in like a hole and it's like a half foot deep and it shocks you, losing one of the closest people to you in your life, a sibling, child, or a parent, is like stepping into a hole that's actually 8 feet deep and not knowing how far you fell. And that is what I sit in as I work to launch my first tech company, scale my global network, do all this purpose-driven work with a community really behind me. I'm not okay. I don't know when I'll be okay. And I have to live with not being okay and feeling fragile in a way that's different. Because grief catches you at the moments you're least prepared. And that it catches you there because those are the moments where grief often comes and haunts us.
Yeah,
so
and so many people dealing with that.
That's the sob story part of it, but it's okay. Because at the same time, I've never felt more purposeful and intentional in what I'm doing. And in embracing that grief, in writing a book about intentional connections and purposeful communities, in raising and launching a company into the world to help connect with trust, everything I'm doing has finally landed.
Mm.
It landed with me a while ago, but it didn't land with everyone the significance of it till they started to realize they don't like other events. They like certain communities, but they love mine. They read my book 3 times and dog-eared it, and it's next to Ray Dalio's Principles, and suddenly I'm next to one of the greatest minds of our time. And everything I'm doing is at a hyperspeed, despite that fragility, because I've been saying for a very long time the way I think things should work with building trusted relationships. And to quote the Mandalorian, like, this is the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've come to realize not that this is my way, my methodology, but it's my study of thousands of the best people on the planet to codify how we all, including you, do this. And I believe, as you know well, that if we truly build purposeful and intentional communities, that allows all of us to flourish and to be caught at those moments where we can't catch ourselves, such as the moment I'm in right now with losing my dad.
Yeah, and so this your book, which everybody should get, and we'll make sure that there are links in the description of the podcast and across all of our socials to do that. But your book really reveals these truths, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about, from your life in nonprofit leadership, philanthropic and impact work, advisory work, and now community building at scale. What patterns or truths have you noticed? Can you share what some of those are across all of these roles that are present in the book?
Yeah. So the hardest one is the best people on this planet, those that are givers, have a really hard time asking for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And those that are takers are absolutely maniacally good at it.
Mm.
And in the world of understanding impact, especially coming from philanthropy with tons of ultra high net worth individuals who were well-intentioned, but all believed that what their way was the right way. And if everyone simply conformed to their idea, the world would be a better place.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anyone would say right now the world is at the best place it could be.
Right.
And so my work has been a study of power, of influence, of trust, and understanding the people who build that best, which are connectors.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pattern that I've seen, which is the way I codified the principles of the book with my co-author, Noah Askin, there are 5 completely normal things most people already understand and wish they did more of, but they do, which are to be curious and to be vulnerable, to embrace your networking with diversity, to act with generosity first, and express gratitude every time you can. And that system, if you can embrace it all, the way you would say flourishing, it's the way I think everyone can make their life a symphony.
Beautiful. And bringing it back to music, how does your musical training influence how you think about human connection and community?
So if somebody were to actually, after this podcast, don't pause and do this, please. We want everyone to listen. If somebody were to actually say to Alexa, play the music of David Homan and listen to my work, Ori for 4 cellos, inspired by Apocalyptica and Metallica, if that's not a plug to go listen, shame on me.
Right.
Or my ballet, The Book of Esther, or the most recent work I wrote, which is about love and loss, called Black Ribbons.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody were to take that work and to listen to it, you're not going to call your friend up and share it. You're going to sit with it personally, because hopefully if I did this right, I found something that put you on a journey that got you deeper into yourself, and the coming out of that, after choosing to pause your life to listen, will give you some perspective that you hesitate to share because it's a truth that is a truth harder to own up to than the way we present our lives normally. And what that means in the simplest form is, if I did it right, I found your melody and I helped you achieve your resonance. So in the world of community building, in the world of relationships, we are all looking to find and be on the same wavelength, to have the right and the same mirrored energy. And in the musical world, it is simply to adopt and get to that same frequency that resonance so that when you were together, the waves and the sound, the connection is higher and more elevated together.
Beautiful. And so you briefly kind of used the word networking there. And I feel like networking kind of tends to almost be a little bit of a dirty word, or some people feel like, oh, I have to go network for work, or thank goodness I don't have a job where I have to go network. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between how you define connection and maybe the sort of traditional understanding of networking, and why that distinction matters?
Given you already gave me permission to be crass, I'll just be blunt.
Yes.
Networking sucks. Most people who run events suck. And most communities that want you in so you can be there because they feel good, they all suck. Because everyone who says they do it. To walk the walk is to be much more intentional with how everyone in a room shows up, what their value is to each other, and to be absolutely clear in community building for yourself or a community you are in or run, how you want people to show up as the best version of themselves. For 5 years running my community, which is now 11 years old, everyone thought I was really, really harsh and misguided by saying I only wanted people in it that I would leave my children with.
Seems like a pretty
They
good
thought
standard.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
It is a standard, but you know, what about that person that would be influential you want to get to?
Yeah.
Well, if I don't think they're high integrity, then F them.
Yeah.
And I set up another rule, which was called honoring the chain of connections, which is if you don't express gratitude for something that happens to you in this community, you don't ever get to come back again.
Mm-hmm.
Or even a smaller thing. Again, people criticize me left and right. If you were late to my event in LA or Miami, where people don't show up at 7 for an event, you don't get to come back unless you wrote me and here's my cell phone to tell me why you're late. And I set that intentionality up because that is not networking and that is not even connecting.
Mm-hmm.
That is purposeful and intentional relationship building. We just don't have the terminology for it because networking was ruined by the guy who meets you and puts his card in your face.
Right.
Connection was ruined by the people who say it's so great for all of you to be here. We are all connected, but saying it doesn't mean you did it. You can only really do it, real connection, real networking, if you are more curious and more vulnerable to the person you're talking to than they are to you. And if you are embracing more of the diversity of only talking to people who look like you, talk like you, or act like you are not networking. You are building a stale environment to conform to the fact you need to think you're great. And if you don't meet people and act first with a question from curiosity to taking an action to help them, you cannot really build trust.
Mm.
And when that trust is built or somebody you have trusted helps you, if you don't act with honor, then you've also made a significant mistake because we don't take this seriously enough. Yet everything in our life comes from, as you said in your introduction, the power of that intro, the power of the relationship, the power of trust. And people might think, especially those in business, maybe not all your audience, this might be woo, but tell me a single M&A transaction that didn't have somebody going, hey, Tom, you need to look at this company.
Right.
Tell me a single political candidate who did not have to first meet their friend's friend who was a bundler and was going to have 50 people over to help them get elected. Tell me a single startup that got friends and family rounds from people they didn't know already. We don't view this at the significant level that we should because people keep playing around with how light or serious they want to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you miss an opportunity, you might miss the opportunity that would have been the best moment for you. And you missed it because you didn't do the self-work and the intentional relationship building that you should do every single time you're in an interaction, even if it's coming over to my apartment to play balderdash.
Yeah.
And be really crass and rude.
Right. Yeah. And so that's a pretty powerful call to action for more intentionality around how we connect. And in your book, you outline a methodology for building purposeful communities. So could you break down one principle from your framework that anybody listening who was sort of inspired by that powerful call to take connecting more seriously, what's one principle from the framework that people could start using today?
So I'm going to take the best of them, which is what you've built with YOUnify and why you called it YOUnify. There's a lot of elements to community building. There's a lot of ways one can take this.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody does not see that joining something can solve their problems and other people's to unify for something greater than a community, it could just be a book club. It shouldn't exist as a community.
Mm.
A community's goal is not just to make everyone feel accepted. A community's goal is to come together to collectively achieve a greater passion than one's own, and to amplify that, to unify that into something that solves a problem we each have as part of our lives, or we see as something we need to solve for others. And anytime somebody complains and didn't vote, didn't donate, didn't volunteer, for my world, they're a hypocrite, because if you don't take your rights and build community to take more action, then you are proving that your apathy in my world is just as bad as those doing the harm to others. And my view of community building is if you can get everyone to align to show up for something greater and achieve their own success, then the people who build a community can build it on a principle of everyone literally having their own cake and serving somebody else some at the same time.
Beautiful. And we've talked a little bit about the power of vulnerability. I want to get into another sort of concept that you share, which is the impact ask. And I'm wondering if you can describe what is that and why is it so powerful, and how could listeners practice that in both their professional and their personal settings?
Impact asks are the core of what I found connectors failing at. We were excellent collectively at bringing this out of somebody else, and we were horrible at asking for what we needed. So I want to frame it with this. From studying this for a decade, I believe each of us, if we do this right, probably have around 4 to 5 introductions that can be made for us that will change our life. And if we did not do the work to be ready for that, we don't even know we missed it. And then we live lives of quiet desperation, or we rage against the dying of the light. And so getting ready for your impact ask is key. And I will break it down right now, because it's not your elevator pitch. It actually goes more into the why of how I described what community building could be just a moment ago. If you can talk about your passion in a minute, and let's assume there's consent for you to talk about this, because when you just throw the card in somebody's face, just telling somebody your ask, even if you're great at it, it falls on deaf ears.
Yeah, we've all met that guy.
Oh, yeah. But if you can talk about your passion, your purpose in a minute, and then you can talk about how that can be amplified, you give somebody a sense of imprinting something you care about that then is also greater than yourself. And it gives them a way, when you're talking about how it's amplified, for them to also be or feel that they could be part of it, or at the very worst case, share back to you something that makes them have heard you or align with what they are doing.
So they can see themselves inside of it or interacting with it.
So in the world of philanthropy, ivory tower, ivory tower, ivory tower, ivory tower, family office, investment, CEO, venture. It is all a bunch of towers. It is primarily still, unfortunately, a patriarchal system. But in a deep study, and I say this as a man who is qualifying this but trying not to mansplain him, but in the world of understanding the divine feminine and natural harmony and the divine feminine is a bunch of overlapping circles. So if you have one circle, it's not strong. If you talk about how what you're doing is amplified and a little bit of yours oversects with somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, then you have the strongest things on the planet, which is how DNA is constructed, how chain link fences are constructed, how everything in the world gets built to be greater that won't topple. It is all this overlapping of circles. So the impact ask, these are 2 of the components, passion and amplification. If you can't do it briefly, go back and do your homework. No one needs a 10-minute pitch when you say, my passion is connecting and building a system of trust globally to achieve greater impact. That's it. That's my passion.
Mm-hmm.
It is amplified by building the people into a network together that collectively are the best at what they do and run communities, businesses, and want to change the world. And by connecting them together, everyone's passion is amplified. The part people really fail at, which takes a lot of research, is to be specific, because not everyone thinks the way that if you're a top-level connector, one might, or if you're a top-level narcissist, the people are really good at this too. But then you have to paint the picture, assuming people don't know what you're talking about, to ask for the type of relationships that you need. So in my case, I am always looking for other connectors. The term would be an action-oriented, natural giver that I or somebody else would leave my children with, who is constantly making introductions, and you don't think, if you know them, understands the value and their power. And I would like to meet them to help them activate that and bring them into a community that globally can help them achieve more while they help others. And if somebody doesn't know what a connector is, I say, yeah, that person who always knows the people in the room, who built a community, who started a book club, who with a bunch of soccer moms decided to call a bunch of people, then fix the field that had broken glass on it before every Saturday. Whatever the tier of it, I want that person who brings people together, introverted or extroverted, that you respect and trust. Can you introduce me to those people? There could be 1,000 variations, but you have to get it tight and succinct and ask about an impact that people see their role in, and see how their role can be to help you with a relationship, even if it is not something that they want to embark on with you themselves.
Amazing. David, this time has absolutely flown by. We are just about till the end of time, but I want to make sure you have an opportunity to share with folks maybe a minute or so of what you're up to with the startup, and whatever they should know about that, if there are ways to get involved.
Absolutely. So the startup is called SOAR Connect. SOAR stands for Strength of Authentic Relationships.
Awesome.
I've studied for 7 years and been flabbergasted why there isn't a technology that gives us an aggregate of everyone we've ever met, with a ranking to help us understand the strength of those connections based on the time we've spent together, and a system that then lets us understand, without endless data entry, the power of those people in our world that we trust, that then allows us, me to you to node, to ask within communities and groups, a hive mind, to achieve that relationship value at a scale that systematizes it and recognizes it. So that is my startup. We have raised $1.1 million to date, about to close the pre-seed round, but there is still room. And then from that, I'm bringing on hundreds to then over 1,000 alpha and then beta testers from my community.
Awesome.
With the hope is that this thing I built works in a way we wish all the other tech had. And if I've done it right, this will change the way we view community, the way that we literally unify together and build relationships at the speed of trust.
So we know everybody should definitely get a copy of this book. It's a manual for creating greater connection and community in your life with purpose that can help anybody in any field, anywhere. And we'll have the links for that below. Also, please be sure and share, hit that subscribe button if you found this information useful, so that we can get it to more eyeballs. That's an immediate action you can take now to help out. And David, are there other ways that people could connect with you or support your work or benefit from it?
So don't message me on my Instagram. I only started it for the book, and before I started, my mom was one of 2 followers. But I have put my world out there in terms of my major community website, orchestratedconnecting.com.
Great.
The book has the similar name and is linked through there. The tech company SOAR Connect is a little bit different, but soarconnect.ai. Otherwise, I ran out of this thing, Brandyn, a while ago that people call time. That's why I'm trying to build a tech company to quantify it.
Yes, that thing.
But I am always looking for high integrity connectors, especially people, whether they are powerful or adjacent to power, that are not satisfied with the status quo and feel they should do more, but want to build a collective tissue of an intentional community to do so.
Awesome. So again, we'll have all the links to connect with David and get the book below. And thank you again so much for joining us, David. We're going to have you back because we've only scratched the surface. So I'm going to try to maybe squeeze out a little bit of that precious resource of time. But truly, thank you for sharing it with us today. Incredible information. And thank you all for watching and listening. And we'll see you next time. So do you have a busy rest of your day there in New York, David?